Red Iron, or Mazasa, was a Sisseton Dakota chief during the mid-19th century, and his actions during the Indian Uprising of 1862 are still of interest today. Mazasa had no intent to enter or drag his people into the bloody conflict taking place in the state of Minnesota, but he did not believe the government and the non-Indian traders were acting in good faith toward the native population. Red Iron fought to make the government accountable for the money owed to them, and wanted a detailed and clearly understandable report concerning what was owed and by whom. As Chief Little Crow and his followers moved through the area taking captives and killing white settlers, it was Red Iron who stopped him and took control of the white captives to ensure their safety. Little Crow may have been the reluctant leader of a violent rebellion, but Red Iron was the reluctant leader of a call for peace. As Red Iron fought the government to get his people's treaty rights upheld, he also had to fight groups like Little Crows who were out for blood and vengeance for the injustices they felt because of those same treaties. Today, there are battles in court like Cobell versus Salazar that argue for the same rights and the same government accounting that Mazasa fought for. Cobell versus Salazar is a lawsuit that is being fought over money that was not paid to the Indians 150 years ago, that now totals nearly $27.5 billion. Native Americans may not be shedding blood for their cause anymore, but they are still fighting that good fight for getting what is owed to them, and that fight for accountability is Red Iron's legacy. Little Crow was an hostile Indian. He was being chased by the police, and Little Crow wanted to pass through Red Iron's camp because it would be the shortest route to his rendezvous point. Red Iron said that Little Crow should pass around his camp because he did not want his people hurt. Little Crow passed through Red Iron's camp, then the police would be looking for him there and might destroy the camp and possibly kill Red Iron's people. Governor Ramsey was the governor of Minnesota from 1860 to 1863. Ramsey and Red Iron did not get along that often. In a council meeting with Red Iron, Ramsey tried to have Red Iron stand down from his position as chief of his band of Sisseton Indians. Red Iron completely ignored Ramsey's order, which made Ramsey angry towards Red Iron. Ramsey tried repeatedly to have Red Iron stand down, but Red Iron refused. Red Iron was an hereditary Sisseton Dakota chief. He was one of 3 sons born to previous chief Tonkamani. All 3 sons went to a battle called Traverse de Sioux. One of his brothers died. Mazamani and Red Iron survived. Red Iron was a middle child and became chief because of his older brother's death. In his way, Red Iron was fighting the U.S. concept of manifest destiny. Manifest destiny was the government's idea to try and expand their lands into the West. The government managed to get a hold of 20 million acres from the Indians through the Traverse de Sioux Treaty. The government tricked the Indians into thinking that they would be paid for the land, but the Dakotas are still not fully paid off 150 years later. Governor Ramsey and Red Iron fought for several years about money that was owed to the Indians. The Dakotas signed over 20 million acres of land to the U.S. government through treaties. Those treaties were not properly translated to the Indians or explained. The Indians were signing away their land blindly in exchange for unreliable payments, poor quality goods, and broken promises. Red Iron and Little Crow found themselves on opposite sides during the Dakota Conflict. Red Iron thought that the fight would not be beneficial for either side. Little Crow did not want to fight, but the people who followed him were anxious for some kind of action to show their frustration over their treatment by the white population and the government's failure to come through on their treaty obligations. Red Iron and Governor Ramsey were at odds throughout their lives. The governor forcefully tried to get Red Iron to step down from his position as hereditary chief of his tribe, even, at one point, imprisoning him in an attempt to break Mazasa's resolve. Governor Ramsey was motivated to remove Red Iron from his position because of the chief's strong-willed desire to ensure his people's accurate rights and obligations as laid out in the Traverse de Sioux Treaty. The Traverse de Sioux Treaty and the Dakota Uprising of 1862 were, in hindsight, very powerful events because the Dakotas lost almost all of their land. The land they kept was uncomfortably small, only about 90 square miles total, as opposed to their original tens of millions of acres. Also because the United States government got almost all of the Indians' land for the unreasonable price of 20 cents an acre, and fooled the Indians into thinking that they were getting a good deal. But the tribes caught on quickly. They found out what the U.S. government was doing and acted against it. Red Iron succeeded in protecting his people from most of the war's unpleasantness and never gave up his resolve in his fight for accountability, and this is truly Red Iron's legacy, which is still being fought. In the 1970s, the American Indian Movement, or AIM, reignited a long-dormant desire to hold the government accountable for its actions. AIM terrified many non-Indians through their jarring actions at places like Alcatraz, Wounded Knee, and Oglala, South Dakota, but their actions could be seen as akin to Little Crow's actions 90 years earlier. AIM wanted accountability, but it also gave the government a taste of the anger that had been brewing over the past century. It is also important to note that the American Indian movement went out of its way to help the community. AIM members carried water for the elders, provided security services, and helped with education on the reservations. One of AIM's founders, Russell Means, said, "It's like the old days, except now they call us militants instead of hostiles or renegades." Talking about the Fort Laramie Treaty, Means said, "This is our last gasp as a sovereign people. And if we don't get these treaty rights recognized as equal to the Constitution of the United States, as by law they are, then you might as well kill me, because I have no reason for living. And that's why I'm here in Wounded Knee, because nobody is recognizing the Indian people as human beings." Today we have court cases like Cobell versus Salazar, which is the lawsuit that is being fought about the land and money that was owed to the Indians. The Trust for Individual Indians was created in 1887 with the passage of the Dawes Act by Congress. The law involuntarily took from the Native Americans legal title to tens of millions of acres of land that was to be held in trust and managed for the benefit of thousands of individual Indians. The Interior Department and the Treasury Department have been sued as the federal government's trustee delegates. They are being sued to give the Indians an accounting of the money in the trust fund, much like Mazasa's fight for accountability 150 years ago. So as these actions continue, we can see Red Iron's resolve for government accountability has not weakened. Red Iron's fight is still being fought today and will not end until the treaties that were signed in good faith have been properly executed.